Welcome to Blueprints for Brilliance Coaching Insights, a podcast by coaches for coaches. Our guests share their hard-won wisdom to help you grow your coaching business and create a life of success. So get ready to unlock the blueprints to your success. Welcome, everyone, to our new podcast episode. We're so excited to have someone who is halfway around the world. It's very early for her, so we appreciate her getting up so early. Her name is Annette Gray, and her company is Annette Gray Consulting, and she is in Sydney, Australia. I am also excited to have my amazing co-host is Francois Lupien from How to Become More, and I'm grateful that he's joining us today. Thank you, Francois.
It's a pleasure to be here, and especially to meet Annette from, we call it Down Under here.
We are thrilled to have you, Annette. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I so look forward to the conversation.
Annette, we have an impressive pedigree of what you sent our way, but tell us a little bit so we can be more familiar with what you are with. How did you become a leadership coach? What was the journey that led you there?
Well, the journey, I actually started my career as a high school teacher, but I realized pretty early on that teenagers weren't my target audience. And it wasn't until a professional development day and a facilitator came in and I went, that's what I want to be doing. So my path, if I look at my whole career, there's been a teaching and learning journey throughout it. So when I left teaching, I went into learning and development with an insurance company and then got into strategic HR, which is more an organizational development role. And I found I kept gravitating towards working with leaders on their development goals that came out of, don't know if you're aware of development centers where leaders would go along and they'd be assessed in terms of their leadership competency and come out with some development goals. And I would work with them one-to-one on helping them achieve their goals. But coaching wasn't on the scene then. This was the 1990s. And in Australia, coaching hadn't reached Australia then. And I realized that part of my human resource organizational development role, I kept gravitating towards and really enjoying it. And it wasn't until I left that organization that I got an opportunity to do a coaching accreditation program. So this was in 2001. And I went, oh, this so fits. But then my career was coaching, but I then started working for a coach training company and realized, yes, I like the one-to-one, but I actually really like training leaders and training coaches to be coach-like for leaders and for coaches to be proficient at what they were doing. So a lot of my career has been this one-to-one and training others to be coaches, and particularly leaders in education has been a big part because I knew that system. You know, I've did a lot of work in that, but I also knew finance, so I did a lot of work in finance. But in the last 10 years, I have been really focused in the construction and infrastructure industry because I just stumbled into running training programs for mentors in the construction industry that were helping women in construction progress in their career. And so, yeah, I've just found myself in this industry, but I absolutely love it because there's a real openness to do things differently and openness to help women progress in that sector. So now my work is construction, education, and infrastructure.
Wow, quite the journey. All interested in teaching all along and then refining the teaching, getting qualified and certified. And then That's an interesting switch to go from education field to construction, because it's a little more rough in construction, but nevertheless, they're open to it. And do I hear you correctly that it's with women that you're doing in construction?
It's developing leaders to help women progress in construction.
So it could be men or women that you help in the development.
Yeah, particularly because there's not enough women to support women in construction because there's only 12% participation rate at this stage. So we need men to actually mentor and coach women to come through.
I'll tell you, I had a construction company and my wife was the one running as a woman. And when she came in, everything was in order. Dang, 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 dang. When men were doing it, hey. So women have a tendency to be way more organized. And I believe that if you are leading industries to train the women to get better, it's to the benefit of many. That's awesome. Thanks for doing that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to ask, is it challenging or is it welcome, the leadership and encouraging them and helping them understand why to hire women or just how to lead them?
It's more about creating a culture that's respectful, inclusive, supportive, and that helps everyone. Because what I found in most of my coaching through the years is that there hasn't been great role models of leaders who are collaborative, constructive, and forward thinking. So this people are open to it because it's like, now I get it. Now I know how to do this. And the work I tend to do is helping leaders be coach-like, not to be professional coaches, but don't just launch into directing and telling. You can actually ask and find out what people know already. So it's really about developing the adult to adult relationship rather than a parent-child relationship.
I like what you said, direct and telling. It's no longer welcome in any industry right now. We like collaboration, and therefore what you're teaching is timely, definitely, and well received. Now that's something that is powerful. Now, the type of coaching, I want to lead to something with this. Do you do experimental or experiential coaching? Because there seemed to be something that I like to find out about with some women that you went someplace that's really cold. So can you share? And I don't know if that's the exact way that you like to teach, or because obviously, and ladies and gentlemen listening right now, you're going to see that this is very different than any type of coaching that you've ever heard of, which is really welcome. But nevertheless, is that the way that you like to coach usually, or is that something that you did once and now want to do again? So first, you usually coach this way, and if so, you want to do it again.
Can I just clarify, Francois, when you say doing it this way, what do you mean?
Well, didn't you go to, yeah, that's what I mean. And so like, that's different. I do coaching, but I never catapulted people in like, talk about an environment that is so different. Like we do tree branch from tree branch and things like this. They're in the area here. So people, but now we're going to like talk about an experiential things. That's very different. Is this something that is part of the legacy or the way that you try and teach people, or is it a one-off type of thing?
Yes. So let me give you a context of how I got to go to Antarctica. So
the cat's out of the bag. We went to Antarctica.
I know. It's like, yes, it was a life-changing experience on many levels. And to go the way I went was, just so special. So the last 8 years I've been involved with Homeward Bound projects, and that's an initiative to train 10,000 women around the world, women in STEM, to help have a voice around climate change. And so I've been a coach, a leadership coach on this program for the last 8 years. And because of COVID, they weren't able to have voyages then. So there was catch-up voyages in November last year, and their 2 ships went, and they had some spaces available for coaches to go. So that's when I went, yes, pick me. That's been on my bucket list to go to Antarctica and to go in this way, because it's a leadership initiative that goes over 12 months. So a cohort of 100 women are developed in leadership, visibility, well-being, and climate change, so that they can actually then, it's a global program, so there's women all around the world on it. And then they can go back to their local communities and start initiatives, projects around climate action, but have the tools in terms of the leadership capability to be able to do that. And it's focused on women in STEM, because traditionally women in STEM, science, technology, engineering, maths, and medicine, don't get access to leadership development. And so because they're not in the higher echelons in the industry, they're not in senior roles, so they don't get access to it. So this is an initiative to help these women build their leadership capability for climate change. And so, yeah.
And I was going to say, I love the fact that 10,000 women, that's a lot. In STEM, so you have a good market. And then you said something that is near and dear to me. You said it's a 12-month program. Even myself and Jeanne and Kirsten, we believe that for information to create transformation, we need integration and time and repetition and other aspects, and getting involved with many different facets enables the person to become more of an expert or an authority because of the time frame. So it shows that you're very serious in what you're doing. It's not like a 2-week program that comes and goes. Tony Robbins used to say it's like a warm bath. It doesn't last. But you're doing something that makes a difference. And so, 12 months programs. And also the fact that you said they're global people, they come in and then they go into their local community. So therefore, you're making such a wave that is awesome. I like the thinking from it. And I just wanted to point it out because it's something that you live in this every day. You may not realize it, but those 2 things are amazing. 12-month program, longevity, make sure that it sticks as far as the changes or the things that you lead them, the leadership that they learn, and then global, and then they go to the local. So the ramifications are like outstanding. I welcome that. That's very nice.
And the reason they go to Antarctica, so let me qualify. I'm a leadership coach on that program. I'm not on the faculty or the developers on the program. So I volunteer my work. So all the coaches that work on the program, it's all pro bono. So we don't get paid. Anyone who works on the program, you're gifting your time. Yeah. So when we went to Antarctica, you mentioned, Francois, the integration. That was the integration piece. Yeah. So 3 weeks we're on the ship. So you think about it, 3 weeks, 88 women from different countries living in confined spaces. That was a real insight on how do you get along with people that are very different to you.
Wasn't like a cruise ship then, huh?
It wasn't a cruise ship. It was a science research ship. So we were going along the, what do you call it, to get onto the ship. And we were looking to the left and there was this huge ocean liner. And then there was our little ship. So that was sort of part of the adventure. It was a working ship and we were there working to understand, because there was a lot of presentations about the impact of climate change to Antarctica. So we were learning so much. And then other part of the program was around, it was facilitator led for a third of the 3 weeks, and then it was participant led for a third of it. So it was, what is it time for each day? What is it we need to learn? And it was people volunteering their expertise around what they could offer others. Yeah. So basically the upshot of the 3-week voyage is the morning sessions, or depending on the weather, were workshop. And then afternoon sessions were out on the zodiacs or going on land and looking at the penguins and doing more the touristy thing of being in Antarctica. But the biggest insight for me is, and the learning I got, when you actually see the impact of climate change in an environment like Antarctica and hearing the scientists speak about it, it gets in your blood then. It's like, yeah, I want to do my bit when I come back. So that was such an impact on everyone who was there. And then the last part of it was forming collaborations. So because there were 19 countries involved and women from every stage of their career, from 25 years old to 76 years old. So it wasn't just the first part of your career or middle career, it was all ages. So I love that diversity. So it wasn't just women, it was women of all ages. It was women who had different roles. So some were in government policy roles in their countries, some worked for the United Nations. We had an astronaut, we had the first female French pilot, commercial pilot. So these incredibly interesting roles. So there was so much diversity within that group. And so the upshot was people formed collaboration. So I'm now part of a collaboration looking at how to progress women in leadership in STEM. And so there's 10 of us working on that around the world. What are we going to do? How can we actually raise the level of participation in leadership across these fields, these STEM fields?
I love that. There's actually a fair amount of encouragement in our school district for women in STEM. Yeah, in like middle school and high school.
Yeah.
So
and that, Jeanne, is a collaboration that came out of it. How do you influence high school students, middle school students to actually see that as an option, STEM fields as an option? Because you can't be what you can't see. So it's, yeah, starting young. So that's great to hear that. That's
it was pretty cool because one of my kids was in, it was called FLL, First Robotics League, FRL. And it was actually Legos. And you get a Lego brick and then you have to configure it. And eventually you program it to do different things on a big board. And it's a competition, but there were some girls only teams. And I love that.
So they must have won.
I don't know. I don't think they won at all. Anyhow, that sounds like an amazing experience and so much information and inspiration that you can bring back.
For sure. And it's had such an impact on me that I've really rethought my business. I've really rethought, where do I want to have an impact in this? I'm the final stages of my career. I've probably got another 10 years in me, but I really want to make a difference. And because of that, seeing Antarctica and hearing that all our weather systems start from Antarctica. So if we don't take care of Antarctica, then climate change actually happens throughout the world. So we heard things like sea levels rising. If this glacier in Antarctica, which is starting to melt, if it continues to melt, the sea levels will rise by 3 meters. And places like Singapore will be underwater. And so and the warming of the sea actually impacts a whole lot of sea life as well.
Yes, I'm a scuba diver, and I tell you, the corals are getting a beating from it like crazy. And actually, as you're talking about the impact that you're making, the people that are listening to this are coaches and they're doing things on their own. And some of them are saying, am I too young? Am I too old? Is it too big of a task? Is it not? And you're an inspiration in saying it doesn't matter. But also, you realize that there's walls that need to be blasted through. And what I like about you is that you're educating the frontline people in order to have more impact. So that's a clue to everybody listening here that if you find that it's too overwhelming for you, leave with some of the people and train them. And as you're training them, then it becomes a bigger force that can have a better impact. So it's as if you're creating a coaching model, and the people that are listening right now can say, okay, yeah, I can see that someone has done it like you, Annette, and you're giving courage to them. And of course, then they could go with Jeanne and Kirsten, where they can have the marketing portions and they can have more people. And if they want to have sales, where they can come to me so we can enroll people into their program. Because let's face it, sales is just communication of an idea that can be accepted by someone else. And marketing is getting enough people that you can tell your story in front of. And so, but I love what you're saying, that you're educating your front line so you have more impact. That is very powerful, Annette. Thank you for sharing.
I was just going to say, what it exposed me to, this initiative, leadership initiative, and going to Antarctica, that if the world is in a state of chaos, it's a real turning point we're at with the world, and we actually need different form of leadership if we're going to get through the complex issues that we have now. And I see this more collaborative, more conscious leadership happening, and coaches have a big role to play in helping that development. And the impact it had on me in terms of my work, I'm not doing as much one-to-one anymore. I'm moving more to group coaching because I see that can have more impact. I'm working with groups of 10 over 6 months around what's your change in leadership behavior you're really wanting to develop in, and having that support from other leaders, because I really see that we need to make a more system impact, and it's hard to do that one-to-one. It's opening the consciousness, the awareness of leaders to see that there's others doing it differently and they can do that. So it's like having the group coaching is group learning and expanding their awareness of their impact and how to do things.
That's awesome. I like that leadership initiative. There's different form of leadership styles, and we need to create a system to impact it better and bigger and stronger. But you're right. Now there's people from all races, colors that are coming together, and they have a different view. And I personally went to Concordia University in Montreal instead of McGill. McGill was pretty much like this, no offense. But Concordia, it was cosmopolitan. You had Chinese, Lebanese, you had Greeks, Italians, and it was all over the Rastafarian people. And they come with a diversity. And when you open your mind to this, you go, what? Actually, I tell you, in the economics class, one of the guys that impacted me most was a Rastafarian guy. He came in with some ideas that I didn't even can consider. But when you're open to do this, then all of a sudden we all grow. And to use the analogy, it's as if we're making the iceberg melt and the water rises. But when the water rises this time, all the boats rise with it, and we're all elevating our awareness from it. So that's powerful what you're doing. Yes.
Thank you.
I love that. So let's kind of swing back to your specific leadership coaching. So can you give us a story, maybe a client story without using any names, about how someone impacted you or how you impacted them?
I think my favorite people I've worked with have wanted to change the culture in their organization. So they've wanted to do more with the developing a coaching culture in their context. And my favorite is this school principal. And she asked me to help her when she was a caretaker principal, because the previous principal was asked to leave, and the school was not in a great place. The parents were going directly to senior ministers in the government to say the school's not working, and the teachers were all not getting on. So it's my favorite client because 10 years later, she's still doing the work to create a coaching culture.
Wow.
And taking her team, new people through the approach and everything. And the thing that really resonated with her is, and that was my beginning learning of being a solution-focused coach. So this is my main philosophy in terms of my coaching practice, is using solution focus. And in fact, it's Solution Focus World Day today in Australia, because I'm the 3rd of May, but you're the 2nd of May. But today is a 24-hour world conference, and all solution-focused coaches and consultants are presenting. There's 60 presentations for 24 hours. So we're kicking off in Australia and Oceania at 9 o'clock, but then it goes for 24 hours, and we hand it on to each region. And so I digress. Solution focus is It actually came out of solution-focused brief therapy and came into organizations in about the 90s. And it's a practice, it's a very simple way of working with people where we focus on what they want rather than what they don't want. So we actually step over the problem and go, so it's obvious you don't want that. What is it that you do want? What would that look like in concrete detail? And have you got any hints of that happening already that you can start moving towards? So I love to train leaders in this approach. And this particular principle, just love the whole approach. And we actually both went to a conference in Oxford University to actually present how we turn this culture around just by changing the focus of the conversations. And now all those teachers teach in that way, in a solution-focused way, looking for what is working, looking for the resourcefulness and strengths in the person that you can bring out. And it's a very respectful way of coaching because you're not coming in as the expert. It's a very work side by side on this.
Collaborative.
Very
Collaborative. I love it. You said something that is very interesting for the crowd that's listening. A little while, if we rewind back on the things that you said, it said, I was looking for one and they wanted to do more. And so therefore there was this commonality that bring people. And oftentimes people fail because they try to convince people on things. And so marketing wise, fine, only talk to people that recognize there's a problem and want to do something about it. If you do that, the train is moving. You don't need to do some convincing. I like that. And the solution focus on day to day. I'm going to show you, listen, I have this, it's called a Remarkable, and I love it. And look what I have on it.
Only think about what you want, abandon all other thoughts.
That's it. And so that's exactly what you're talking about. Focusing on solution. We only have so much energy that we can spend. Actually, I can say that we have more energy, but that's okay. Yep. So much energy that people think. So why waste it in things that we don't want and give that life when we know it's not working? So, okay, it's not working. Now let's focus on the solution. And when you do that, everybody's empowered because we're working towards the same goal without looking back. And so they say that in the car, you have the big windshield, and then you have the rear view mirror. Your rear view mirror is small because it's not where you come from that counts. It's where you're going. And therefore, focusing on these things enables us to actually get much better. I appreciate that. That's very good coaching and structure that you're bringing to the table. I love it.
Thank you. And I think what I've seen in the terms of helping coaches, because I do coaching supervision as well. I'm with the European Mentoring Coaching Council. I'm an accredited coach supervisor. And really when I'm working with them and it's generally, they'll give me a snippet of their coaching. I say, give me 10 minutes because when you see what you're doing rather than talk about what you're doing, there's so much more learning from that. So I will always say to them, show me what you're doing and what is it you want to learn? What is it you're curious about in your practice? And what I often find is coaches will want to unpack the problem and find where it came from. And actually, we don't need to do that.
Wasted energy.
Wasted energy. We actually have to find their snippets of what they do want and how do we magnify that and help them move forward on that. You know?
I love it.
So that's one of my favorite things to do is actually work with coaches as well on their practice.
Cool.
Well, we love coaches around here, as you can tell. I'm going to ask you one more question, Annette, if you don't mind. If you could give the world one tip to make it a better place, what would that be?
Be kind.
Ooh.
See the good. See the good in others. Just be kind.
Love that. Now, how can people reach out to you, Annette, if they want to learn more about what you do and how they might be able to get involved in it or get some coaching from you?
Sure. There's a few ways. So I'm on LinkedIn, often posting on LinkedIn. So under Annette Gray Consulting on LinkedIn. My website is annettegray.com.au. Oh, and they're the main platforms that I'm on.
Okay.
Is there ways that people can get a hold of you and get a taste of what you do so then they can go deeper into the conversations with you? Is that on your website or?
Yes. So they can. I also have a YouTube channel that I have lots of videos up as well. And that's Annette Gray Consulting as well. But yeah, email me. My email's on my LinkedIn profile as well. So yeah, please love to support other coaches.
Would we see some of your trip and your YouTube videos at all? Your Antarctica trip?
It's actually there's some pictures going to be on my website. My new website's launching on Monday. But yes, I'm actually going to put one of my favorite clips is we saw an iceberg flip. when we're in the zodiac right near it. I can actually send you the link. Oh my goodness, it was, and you might like to put in the show notes, it was the most extraordinary thing that I've seen. And it looked a totally different color underneath. So it was black ice underneath. And when it's black ice, it means it's thousands and thousands of years old. We were right there when it happened. I was like, oh my goodness. And my other favorite, which I can send you the picture, is we saw a cupcake iceberg. It was in the shape of a cupcake. And it was like a 5-story building. It was just huge. It was like, how did that happen?
When you go in places like this, you realize how powerful nature is and how insignificant we really are. So the difference you want to make with that climate change is want to make us realize that we're just a speck. And if we respect it and do our part, which each and every one of us can, it does make a difference. And you're teaching people to do that and making them more and more aware. So that's a great movement also. Thank you.
Yeah. So, well, I can't thank you enough, Annette, for coming on and for sharing all of this inspiration and for teaching us so much. Yeah, thank you so much. And we will put all your information in the show notes so people can reach out to you and also see those amazing videos.
Awesome. Thank you. I just love the conversation. I really appreciate the time. And it was worth getting it up for.
Thank you. It was worth listening to as well. Thank you so much.
We appreciate that. Thanks for joining us today on Blueprints for Brilliance Coaching Insights. We hope you're leaving this episode with inspiration to take your coaching business and your life to the next level. If you found value in this episode, we would love it if you would subscribe and share it with someone else who you think might benefit from hearing it. Thanks, and we'll see you in the next episode.